Welcome back here with Money, Money, Money. And this week we're talking education because even education costs money, right? Well, Mr. Rungta, so let's take this point forward. You just gave us an example of this loan against property, which can be a much smarter way of borrowing at a lower rate of interest than an education loan. But going back to the concept of education loans, you mentioned a couple of, I think, NBFCs, which are also disbursing these type of loans. So do enlighten us.
So there are three NBFCs which specialize in providing education loans. The oldest one is Credila, which is an HDFC subsidiary. Then there is Avance, which is, I think, a subsidiary of Diwan Housing. It's a part of the Diwan Housing group. There is another one, third one, which is again specializing in education loans. They are more expensive than the public sector units.
Okay. But the rates of interest would be higher? The
rates of interests are higher.
Any sort of rough guess as to how much higher?
They would be at least be 1 to 1.5% higher.
Oh, that's a huge increase.
It is a huge interest, but they have a role to play. For example, depending on the course that you do, and they are specialists, so they know which courses lead to better jobs, etc. So they would be in a position to give you loans with no collateral sometimes, with partial collateral. So even if the loan amount is 20 lakhs, they may take a collateral of only 5 lakhs. Or on a 20 lakh collateral, they'll give you 20 lakhs. Or they may give you without collateral if the course is very highly regarded by them. They have ratings for all the courses. So clearly, although they charge a higher rate of interest, they clearly have a space in the ecosystem. So, I mean, if you have the collateral and if your course is recognized, etc., then maybe the public sector banks or even, as I said, other loans are things that you should look at to reduce your cost. But where you do not have collateral or do not have adequate collateral or your course is a little too specialized, which the public sector banks don't understand,
maybe.
I think that's where the education, specialized education institutions come in.
Okay, so understand NBFCs that do have a role in the whole ecosystem, as you say. But the bigger question, Mr. Rungta, that I guess a lot of people face, the dilemma. Do you borrow fresh to generate this 20 lakh or 25 lakh rupee corpus, or do you start dipping into your current savings, be it mutual funds or FDs?
So again, an interesting question, especially in the context of the fact that people are now planning. So I can reframe the question, if I may, that you already have the funds, right? Should you still borrow? If that is the question, I think then it is a very simple thing or relatively simple thing. What does the borrowing cost you? What is the post-tax cost of borrowing? So if you take, as I said, if you were to take a loan against property and fund that for the higher education, you would typically get it at 9.25%. Now, if your income is, say, above 50 lakhs, your tax rate is 34%. That 9.25 effectively costs you 6% or 6.1%. If whatever money you have saved, if that can earn more than 6% post-tax, which there are plenty of ways in which it can, then that difference is really something that you enjoy as a bonus, and that can go towards paying for any of the things that you have not taken into account in the education itself. Another advantage of borrowing over using own funds is that it imposes some responsibility on your children. They value the education. They're supposed to pay back that loan. Versus if you have used your own funds, there is no obligation on them to pay back the loan. Now that's a good thing and sometimes not such a good thing.
Okay. So any sort of types of recommended loans where you think that typically the math is going to add up in the parents' favor?
So I think except loan against security, which could be loan against property, loan against movable assets like insurance policies, equity shares, mutual funds, jewelry.
Loan against gold?
Loan against jewelry, gold. Loan against jewelry, gold, unfortunately not so cheap. But if it is cheaper, then yes. Otherwise, education loans are not all that expensive.
All right, valid points there, but I guess some questions still remain for those who are still looking at doing a mix of fresh borrowing and looking at current pool of capital and seeing what they want to do. Should you break that FD or not? Should you, partially sort of redeem a mutual fund? That's what we're going to explore. And we'll also explore the concept of gifting. If you gift certain units of mutual funds to your children, will it make more sense for them to go ahead and fund their higher education? Back on the other side of this break.